Good afternoon and thanks to attend to this presentation. My name is Maria Walter de Rossi, and as a civil engineer, my experience is mostly based in management and controlling work on site in different countries such as Argentina, Spain, Colombia, and Ireland. When I finished my degree many years ago, CAD didn't exist, and digitization, especially in the AEC sector, was in the early stages. The upskilling is the key to the professional development, so I had to acquire new knowledge in order to use new software. As civil engineer, I was responsible to produce quantity takeoff and bill of quantities in many projects, so that I believe the challenge is to produce better information from a cost perspective, implementing the 5D BIM from the design stage, aiming to improve early stages to final construction phases. My goal is the constant development, integrating the digitization and new technologies into the workflow from the design stage. Uh, we are going to talk about the 5 dimensions of BIM. What is the current situation in Ireland? The architecture, engineering, and construction and operation industry in Ireland is engaged in a technological change, which is intended to achieve ambitious objectives in terms of 20% time reduction, 20% uh, cost reduction, and 20% export increase. Although the BIM methodology is becoming widespread among designers and builders in Ireland, many contractors and quantity surveyors find it difficult to implement 5D BIM for quantity takeoff and costing. What is 5D BIM? 5D BIM can be defined as a process of applying cost to the model. Quantities takeoff can be generated from the 3D model and exported to a costing software. In 5D environments, the quantity surveyors and estimators can participate in data exchange within the BIM workflow from the design stage and provide better advice to the clients, exploring more efficient way of improving building design, cost, and performance. Nowadays, we use two methods to obtain the bill of quantities. Costing and bill of quantities are prepared traditionally using drawings to perform manual quantity takeoff while completing costing tasks, a process filled with potential for human errors. By using the 5 dimension of BIM and utilizing costing software such as Navisworks, CostX, FICO, MathShark, etc., can import the information from the 3D model to make groups and add costs to each component. The information takeoff can be updated each time from the 3D model and allow contractors, subcontractors, and project teams to produce accurate costing information with model elements attributes such as size, area, object family types, and productivity projections. Uh, can we uh, uh, can we how can we automate the quantity takeoff and bill of quantity procedures? Nowadays exist two processes to export the quantity takeoff, and this classification is based on the stage in which is added the QSID. The QSID is a code of identification that quantity surveyors use to classify the components in the 3D model. The pre-processing, in the pre-processing, the QSID are added in the 3D authoring application. In the post-processing, the QSID are appended in the 5D estimating tool. Both can be improved to be more efficient, but they are a good start to develop new technical solutions to make the process of export the quantity takeoff easier and familiar to get to the bill of quantities. There are multiple reasons and issues for the 5D BIM adoption of the quantity surveyor professional and can be classified under three sections as shown in the figure 1. There are people barriers, process barriers, and technology barriers. The resistance to changing the way of working, the lack of BIM capabilities, the silo disciplines education, as well as the fear of the unknown and to assume new roles are the main people barriers. Implementation of 5D BIM requires investing in training the staff and acquiring software licenses whose cost is significant, especially for small practices. Uh, well, talking about the people barriers, we can say that the resistance to changing the way of working and the lack of BIM capabilities are one of the most relevant people barriers. Despite of the quantity surveyors understand that the BIM methodology represents a significant technological change that is transforming the way of producing and sharing information in the AECO sector, this is perceived with fear of the unknown and of assuming new roles for which it's necessary to acquire new technological capabilities. Implementation of 5D BIM requires investing in training the staff and acquiring software licenses whose cost is significant, especially for small practices. BIM is much more than 3D models. It is a methodology of collaborative information management and whose application requires knowledge of the standards and the early implication of all stakeholders from the design stage. Also exist relevant process barriers to 5D BIM adoption. The exclusion of the main constructors and subcontractors from the earliest design and project planning, the lack of maturity of integrated project delivery, BIM maturity in Ireland, the lack of government lead, as well as the lack of requests of 5D BIM by customers, make difficult the 5D BIM adoption. Many clients have a limited understanding of the BIM methodology and poorly trained staff on this methodology, so they don't demand this kind of services from other professionals in the sector. BIM roles are not fully defined. New roles and tasks related to 5D BIM must be correctly defined. The cost of staff training is significant and requires time to incorporate this new knowledge into workflows. This affects the quantity surveyors in a significant way, whose incorporation into the projects in traditional practice is in the delivering stage, while for a full integration within the BIM methodology require a collaborative approach from the early stage of the project. Other significant barriers to 5D BIM adoption are that clients are not paying for BIM services, and this discourages the use of the BIM methodology. Fees need to be restructured to include any additional 5D BIM services. There are also relevant technology barriers that we need to face in order to complete 5D BIM adoption. The incorrect classification of the elements in the model makes it difficult to automate the extraction of the quantities, and manual interventions are required to complete the process. This problem, classified as technological as well, in my opinion, is a process problem whose solution requires the integration of the quantity surveyor's role from the design phase and establishing the information requirements that the models must include, as well as providing a guide for designers for modeling with a collaborative approach. Currently, many activities of quantity takeoff and costing must be done manually, such as link to several models, such as architectural models, mechanical, structural model, and so on, with 5D platform to extract quantities and to export the derived quantities to costing programs. Once again, acquire digital knowledge as well as to know how the 5D BIM tools work are the key and starting point for the quantity surveyors and to be able to automate the process to obtain the quantity takeoff. The lack of model view definition is another of biggest technical issues, and it's considered a great barrier to quantity surveyors 5D BIM adoption. Model view definitions represent a subset of the IFC schema defined by Building Smart International and group together certain information useful for specific workflows or uses. Due to the lack of a specific 5D BIM standard, there is not an approach to cost planning and the production of bill of quantities. All functional components of the design, such as slabs, floors, external walls, and so on, are organized within a work breakdown structure. Into the categories of the work breakdown structure, overall estimated cost are allocated to the elements of the project. Nowadays exist many works breakdown structures in different regions and even within different sectors of the construction sector, which makes it impossible for BIM software manufacturers to add all the work breakdown structures code in the objects due to the number of existing standards. Presently, to address this issue, quantity surveyors must add this code themselves in the authoring model application or append them in the 5D costing tool. Doing that, quantity takeoff can be filtered based on this work breakdown structure and produce a cost estimate. The accuracy of the information extracted from 3D models is other significant technology issue that has a big impact on cost calculation. Well, we are talking about the main barriers to the 5D BIM adoption, but also I can give you some recommendation in order to address all of these barriers. Invest in upskilling the staff and acquire new software licenses, knowledge of the standards, 5D BIM services should be included in quantity surveyor fees. Awareness campaigns by professional bodies and seminars and workshops like this are some suggestions in order to address the people barriers. Talking about the process barriers, the early implication of all stakeholders from the design stage, the new roles need to be created officially within the public sectors. The government's BIM mandates will accelerate this process as well. Offer to clients as an value added service. There are some of the recommendation to resolve or to face with the process barrier. Software vendors need to develop new solution to build into their functions or design model view definition for the specific requirement, the quantity surveyors. The quantity surveyor requirements have to be communicated to designers in order to establish an information exchange route to integrate the 5D BIM dimension more effectively within the BIM process at early stages. The use of level of detail can improve, can provide an structural approach for better implementation and understanding of 5D BIM. So there are some suggestions in order to resolve the technology barrier that they are really relevant for the 5D BIM adoption. Well, also would be interesting to provide some conclusions about how can we be able to implement the 5 dimension of BIM from the early stages in all projects. The key points are the education and training, the spread BIM benefits, and development of model view definition. Professional bodies and academic institutions should provide specific 5D BIM training courses that promote the use of BIM tools as well as the development of ICT capabilities. Moreover, interdisciplinary courses for professionals who play different roles, such architects, structural engineers, mechanical engineers, quantity surveyors, will bring a better collaborative approach to change the traditional silo-minded. Professional bodies, institutions like Construction IT Alliance or BIM Coordinators Summit should intensify the efforts in spreading the 5D BIM benefits amongst the construction sectors through conferences, journals, and courses. Development of a model view definition would be a relevant improvement in order to be able to use the 5 dimension of BIM from the early stage of the project. Software developers should increase the efforts in developing a model view definition to facilitate the quantity takeoff processes. This would be a good tool to avoid excessive malware interventions. Well, so I would like to thank to everyone to attend this presentation, and also I wish to thank to Ralph Montague and the BIM Coordinator Summit to the invitation to speak in this event. I appreciate this opportunity and your great effort to organize this event. If you have any question, I would be happy to answer all of them. Thank you.